Welcome, everybody. My name is Felipe. I'm an account manager here at Fliplet, and I will be talking to you guys about how the top 200 law firms are using apps. Just a couple of housekeeping items. If you have questions, please make sure to ask them using the Q&A button on your screen, and I will make sure to get to them by the end of the webinar. If for any reason we go over, because we do have a lot of information to share with you guys, I will make sure to get back to you after the webinar. So let's take a look at the agenda. First, we're going to do a walk through the summary of the research. Then we're going to jump onto our key findings and trends. Then we're going to take a deep dive into the most popular app types and app analysis. And finally, I'm going to leave you with why law firms use Fliplet and some recommended next steps. So let's talk about the summary of the research. The top 200 law firms we got from law.com, and the sources for the apps that you're going to see or the use cases you're going to see comes directly from the app stores, both Google and Apple, as well as search engines. One thing to keep in mind is that this excludes any web apps, web pages, widgets, or internally distributed apps through an MDM. And also, just an update, the initial research was done in May of this year. We expanded on that research and wanted to share our new findings with you guys. The interpretation of the data, everything you'll see comes directly from the descriptions, the benefits, and the features of the apps and use cases that we're going to show you next. All right, so let's jump directly into the key findings and trends. 39% of the top 200 law firms have apps published both in the Google Store and the Apple App Store. Now, what does exactly this mean in numbers? This means that 191 apps were published by the top 200 law firms. There have been 131 apps published in the Apple and Google stores combined, 47 in the Apple App Store, and 13 in the Google Play Store. Now, I know what your next question is going to be. What's the average number of apps published by the top 200 law firms? The answer is 2.5 apps. What does this tell me? That the top 200 law firms are sharing information because people need the information available in different vehicles. This slide is actually very important and very, very interesting. What it tells us is that there's no direct correlation between the size of a firm and the number of apps published. So to you, this could be a competitive advantage, right? So make sure that you take advantage of the fact that not everybody has an app and start sharing your information in different ways. You could, it's definitely gonna, better your client experience. It's going to better your staff experience. There's information on your website that you might want to share on an app. You might want to make it mobile. Also, different tools and resources for your teams. If you have clients that have people on the road all the time, it's better to have available through an app. And one interesting fact is that we've seen a massive launch of apps from mid-sized law firms. So you could be part of that. You could be an innovator by taking advantage of this fact. Now let's take a look at the last 13 years in terms of apps that have been launched. What this tells us is that there's a very steady line of growth, right? If we take a look at 2010, this starts there, then it drops a little bit in 2011, but it's solid. The growth is really, it starts going up and up and up and up until we reach that peak on 2020, right? 2020 makes total sense. That's when COVID happened. So a lot of firms had to improvise. How do we make the information that was available on the web or on the intranet at the office for people to take advantage of at home or wherever they're working from? So a lot of information was reinvented and shared in different ways to make it accessible so that we could continue our day-to-day operations. Now, there's a little bit of a drop in 2021. Again, keep in mind that the drop in 2021 is not significant if you compare it to 2019. It's actually pretty close. But in 2022, there's a big jump there. So what happened? Basically, people got used to using apps for searching information, for the resources that they need. And truth be told, we use our phones and our devices for everything. We listen to music on our phones. They're now connected to our cars. Some people watch TV using their phones. All the work you do could be connected to your phone, your email. You can attend a conference using your phone. You join calls using your phone. You can even edit documents if you have the right applications. So what this tells us is that yes, apps are now here to stay. They're actually, everybody is looking for information to be accessible in different ways. Now, like I said before, the research was originally done in May of this year. That's why 2023 is about at halfway point if you compare it to 2022. But if the trend continues as it has been, we should see a very similar number as 2022, if not higher. Now, let's talk a little bit about updates for apps. You might be thinking, what does update actually mean in this case? Even though content is very important, and I always tell my clients to keep publishing new content constantly to keep people engaged, you also have to look at functionality. You have to make sure that your app is easy to use. It's interesting to look at. It's relevant to your user. We're so familiar with apps that we use every day, right? Like, for example, Spotify is very, very user friendly. We're very used to user friendly apps. So we want to make sure that when we launch an app, we want it to be as easy to use as possible, and so that it makes sense when it's on my hand, or if I'm looking at my app on the web as well. It has to make sense for me everywhere I look at it. So that's where this comes from. A lot of previously launched apps have been tweaked to better the user experience, and that's something that should be done. If you have an app already, make sure you look at your analytics, survey your people, ask them what is the most valuable resource within that app, and start tweaking it to make that user experience unique and better. Now, on this slide, we have the top 10 law firms by number of apps published. We see some really big names here: Eversheds, Hogan Lovells, Latham Watkins, Taylor Wessing, Bird & Bird. It's really, really prominent firms. And we're going to expand a little bit on that on the next slide. So when we started doing our research, it was really, really impressive to see that Latham Watkins actually has 21 apps published. And if we actually go to the bottom of the screen, we see firms like Clifford Chance with 6 apps, Bird & Bird with 7, and Slaughter & Make with 5. So what does this tell me? It basically tells me that, again, going back to that point, people want the information available in different ways, different vehicles, right? If I am in my house, I might want to look at the information on my computer, but then I'm on the road, I want to look at it on my phone. I'm not close to my computer, so I'm going to look at it on, through my tablet. People are asking for information to be available in many, many forms. And this actually reiterates that point. Now let's take a little bit of a deeper dive and look at the ratings. Ratings go from 5 out of 5 to 4.9 out of 5. What I actually want to focus on right now is the launch date, the update date at your far right side, as well as the app category, because this is very interesting. So if we look at the Employment and Pension Guide by Eversheds, we see that the app was originally published in 2011, but it was updated in 2022. Going back to that point, keep asking your people what they want. Make sure that you're updating it so that the user experience is as good as it can be. It's kind of like buying a house that is not functional, right? Eventually, you're going to knock that wall down and make it an open concept. Thinking about the same, in the same train of thought. We want to make sure that the app makes sense for the user. Again, if we look at the foreign direct investments app, the number 3 there from Latham Watkins, we see that it was published in 2019 and updated in 2020. So this is good practice, right? They published the app, did a little bit of research, and tweaked it to better the experience of the user. Now, let's jump onto the most popular types of apps in the legal industry. We start with events at 36.5%, reference at 31.8%, emergency management at 13%, community at 4.2%, app portals at 3.6%, learning apps, news, calculator tools, firm information, and office management all at 1.6%. Now let's take a deeper dive into the top 5. Okay, we're going to start with events. Now, events, this can be for clients and staff. They can be virtual or in person. Some of the typical features we see are agendas and schedules, floor plans. Again, floor plans can be interactive as well, show you where different points of the conference are happening. Directory of speakers and attendees. This is very, very key. If I am attending a conference or an event, I want to make sure to know who's speaking, and I want to have a choice as to what sessions I'm attending and which sessions I might want to skip because it's not, relevant to me. Also, these directories usually have information about these speakers, right? So maybe their LinkedIn profile, their awards, their expertise, that sort of thing. A way of getting in touch with them after the conference, right? This could generate new business. Chat and discussion boards. This is very important. I want to really, really, really underline this. If you want the engagement of your app to be as high as you want it to be, you want to give your users a way to speak to each other, a way to share information, a way to reach out to you. So make sure that you set them up in a way that allows them to share with you their most common interests, or what was the best session of your event. Ask questions, share information with one another. Enable networking. This is very, very important, right? Getting people to speak and giving them a vehicle to do so is very, very key, because it makes them feel part of the conference rather than just attending the conference. Notifications, very important, keeping people up to speed on to what's happening. A great example of this is we attended ILTA in August, and the welcome dinner was happening outdoors, but at the last minute they sent a message saying, it might rain, we're moving in indoors. If they hadn't sent out that message, a lot of people would have shown up to where the event was originally happening, and nobody would have been there. So it's good to keep people up to speed up to what's happening. In terms of an administrator, it's great for you because you get to make changes on the fly. You get to notify people of special things that are happening, a change in a room, a change in time, notifying people, hey, your event is coming up, your session's coming up. So it's very, very engaging. Multiple events under one app, very useful. You don't have to rebrand every single time you have an event. You don't have to. I don't want to have to download 10 apps to attend your events. If you have multiple events in one app, it's easier for you to share information, make changes. The branding is done once, and you can add additional things here and there. But the idea is, give people your tour dates for the year. Make sure they know what's happening so that they can plan ahead as well. It's very, very useful. Checking in and out has become very popular, especially in CLE with CLE events. You want to make sure that your attendees get their time, get their hours, and this is a very effective way of doing it. Always, 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 as an account manager, I share with my clients to look at their analytics after the event happens, so that we can gauge which session was the most interesting, what topics were talked about, what was successful, what didn't work, right? These are all potential data points that you can use for your next event, and also data points for you to potentially save money in the future. If something wasn't working, you can remove it, you can tweak it. Next, we're going to jump onto reference, news, and learning. As you may have noticed, we actually grouped this category together because when you download an app that's a reference app, you usually see a mix of these. Typical features, it's basically a reference or document library. Decision trees are very, very useful. They're widely used in professional development apps or learning apps. If I know what my next step in my career is, the decision tree can help me go to the next training, right? It will point me in the right direction based on a set of questions. Discussion forums, again, I'm going to reiterate this. You want to give people the ability to ask questions, share knowledge, basically have a way of interacting with each other. People that are on the same boat as them, people that are taking advantage of this app for the same reason. It's very, very powerful. News. You can have news be as broad as you want it to be. You can make it as narrow as you want it to be. If it's a practice app, definitely the news has to be related to the practice, but you can make it as broad as you want. Always, I always recommend having information about your firm in the app because it's very useful to know what's happening in my organization. It could generate business. It could give me tips and tricks and tools that I can use on my day to day, right? So it's very useful. Create customized courses and customized content. Make sure you're surveying your people, finding out what they like, what they're looking for, what's most interesting and most valuable to them, and cater to that. You can check your knowledge. Awards and certificates. We haven't touched on gamification. I'm going to talk about that a little. So gamification is a great way of engaging your audience. Everybody likes to get rewarded. Everybody likes something free. Everybody likes to show that they've done the work. So make sure you're rewarding your users for taking your courses, for accessing your materials, for engaging in a discussion board. But in terms of learning, make sure you're giving away those certificates, those pieces of paper, or those pictures that you get once you complete a course. They're very valuable. They give you a sense of accomplishment. So make sure you're doing that. And this will increase your engagements, as it says here. It's a very easy way to manage up-to-date information, and you can optimize it based on the behavior and what your audience is looking for. Next, we're going to jump onto emergency management. One thing to note is here it says it's for clients and practices, but you could also use it for a business continuity app, using it internally. Typical features is reporting an app. In the case of Fliplet, you can report an app pushing a button, basically. It's designed in a task-based workflow, so as the emergency is reported, I get a set of actions that I need to complete, and Kate, my co-host here, will get additional sets of actions that she needs to complete. And it depends who's involved in the emergency, but the idea is everybody will know what to do. You don't have to improvise anymore. You don't have to jump on the phone or jump on the web to look for that lost PDF that is used once in a blue moon, because emergencies don't happen that often. Invite collaborators. I'm assuming most of you have clients in multiple industries, so their emergencies are going to be completely different. Invite people that have been involved in those different industries, and make sure you create emergency scenarios that make sense for those particular clients, right? Or for yourself. Every single emergency has curveballs. So you want to make sure you have experts that you can reach out to for that, added knowledge. Notifications, keeping people up to speed as to what's happening with my emergency, what's the progress so far. A live chat. Live chats are very important. If I need to ask a question or share a document quickly, I could do it through a live chat. Very useful. Support materials. This could be anything you want, really. It could be something as simple as a video, to different documents, policies, if the emergency has happened before, maybe a report of what happened last time, kind of like a review. But one thing that I always love about this types of apps is the drills, mock emergencies. One thing that is key is you want to have your folk trained for when that emergency happens. The last thing you want is the emergency to happen tomorrow and nobody knows what to do. Yes, you do have those actions that you need to complete, but how much better would it be if everybody has run through that already once or twice, including your clients, including yourself, right? It also creates a sense of connection with the people that are going to be involved in an emergency. It gives you the ability to respond in a coordinated way to the emergencies. You will mitigate errors. I can guarantee you that, because you will complete what you need to complete and you won't have to improvise. And the fact that you're collaborating throughout the emergency and as you create the different scenarios is going to make it that much easier when the emergency actually happens. We have some examples here for use cases, dawn raids, crisis response, crisis management, a cyber attack, data fraud, anything like that, but the one that really hits home is, a couple of years back, COVID was an emergency that everybody was involved in, and we had to improvise. Now that we know what we did to handle that, we could put it on a template, and you could assign it to a person, an individual, or a person, a group, or a placeholder, and that way it's ready to go for when that scenario hits again. Next, we're going to talk about community apps. These are dear to my heart. My background is in consulting and HR before I got into tech, so I love these. These are for clients, staff, and alumni, usually widely used by HR departments to increase the employee engagement within a firm. Typical things you see are user profiles, groups. I'm going to expand a little bit on groups. It doesn't have to be a business-related group. This could be a common interest group. In my case, I like football or soccer, right? So I can create a football group, and whoever likes football can join me. If I don't know that person, but they work in my organization, that is going to spark, new relationships, drive collaboration. It basically helps people get together in a different way that doesn't necessarily have to be the 9 to 5 way, right? Discussion topics. This could be posted by the admin, or you can have your users post a discussion topic, or run a contest and use gamification. Let's come up with discussion topics, and then your users will tell you what they're interested in. Then you can have them vote, and that way you can find out. It's basically a content creating machine for you, which is amazing. Also, comments, posts, something as simple as, it's Kate's birthday. So let's say happy birthday to Kate, or it's Lisa's first anniversary with the firm. Let's say thank you to Lisa for her hard work. Ian just got promoted. So congratulations, Ian, stuff like that. It's very, very useful, and always sharing good news is a great way to keep your people engaged and happy. It also is a great way to promote an environment of transparency, which is a problem that comes up again and again when it comes to leadership and your people on the ground. So it's a great way to share information, news and information. Again, go back to making it as narrow or as broad as you want it to be, but always share best practices, share firm information. This is going to better your staff, your client, and your alumni experience all the way. I can guarantee you that. It will make communication better. It'll improve engagement. Networking opportunities, as it says here in the benefits. I might not know who the manager for the department that I want to move into is, so I might be able to get through to them using this app. Or I want to know who can help me with a specific issue. This is great. The community apps allow you to do that in a less corporate way, in a more human way. Next, let's talk about app portals. I want you to picture a house, basically, because that's what an app portal is. It basically is an app that allows you to host multiple apps inside. It's usually used when you're sharing information, sensitive information. The security rules or the security settings are top notch, because you want to make sure that whatever you're sharing in there, you're comfortable sharing. Usually you see a dashboard or an overview. Document sharing is very common. Project management is widely used for this, because you can have multiple projects under one app, and give access to different people through those projects. You can also report on different things that are happening, different resources, that sort of thing. So keep in mind that app portals are there for you to be able to provide access to people depending on the level of access they have, and show them more or less content. So let's go through a quick summary here. We just looked at events, emergency management, reference news and learning, community apps, and app portals. If you guys are interested in any of these use cases, I'm more than happy to set up time to talk to you guys. People on my team are more than happy to talk to you guys, and take a deeper dive into any of these use cases. Other key trends that we've seen: multiple languages within an app, or the ability to change languages within an app. We have apps that have up to 14 languages, or even apps that default to the person's language depending on geographical location. So it's very, very interesting, and a very, very common feature nowadays. Multiple jurisdictions. Laws are different in Florida than they are in California. Last thing you want when you're working on a case is to get wrong information. So make sure you add the appropriate information when it comes to your jurisdiction. Multiple scenarios. Again, the emergency management, really, really, really useful. You want to make sure that you create different scenarios that are useful for your clients and your staff. You want to make sure that whatever you are using in terms of mock emergencies is relevant to you and will make an impact when the emergency actually happens. Now let's talk a little bit about AI. Sadly, none of the top 200 law firms have AI features incorporated into their apps. We personally think this is a trend that is normal, but we think it's going to be short-lived because of the adaptations of tools such as ChatGPT. Here at Fliplet, we have an AI promo generator, we have an AI bio generator, and we have an AI app plan builder. So you can basically build an app plan very, very quickly by giving the chatbot the different components, and it will basically give you an app plan that you can now tweak to make sense to what you're looking for. Now, 41 out of the top 200 law firms use Fliplet. Why do you think that is? Well, in my opinion, it's honestly very simple. We give our clients a platform that allows them to build an app regardless of their technical ability. In other words, it's designed in a drag and drop fashion. So if you have built a PowerPoint presentation, which I'm sure you have, you can build an app using our studio. There is a webinar where we build an app in 15 minutes. It's on demand. You can actually look at it. You can find it on our website. But honestly, it's super, super easy. On top of that, we have different templates off the shelf that you can use. But the beautiful thing is you can take screens from those templates and add them to other templates. We have additional screens on top of the ones that are on the templates to make your app unique. We will adhere to your security rules and provide recommendations based on our experience. We can integrate with pretty much anything as long as we know what is happening in the backstage. So we will have a conversation and understand what you're working with and help you build that bridge. But some examples include HiQ, Litera Foundation, SharePoint, Microsoft Power Automate, you name it. We can integrate with pretty much anything. Your apps will be available for your mobile devices and on your desktop. You have multiple use cases like the ones you saw. And as an account manager, I will make sure with my clients to run through use cases throughout the year to make sure we're maximizing the impact of their initiatives. And finally, I'm going to reiterate this. They're easy to use. You don't need to be technical to build an app in a studio. Now, here are some examples of the work that we've done and the people we've worked with. If you're interested in taking a look at the case studies, I am more than happy, and we will share some of the case studies with you. If you're interested again in any of the use cases and you want to take a deeper dive, I'm more than happy to do so as well. So some recommended next steps. If you're new to apps, again, going back to the beginning of the webinar, look at what information you have that you wish you could share in a better way with your clients and your staff. Maybe do a review of your website and see if any of it would be better suited for an app or could mirror your website as well, making information available in a different way. Make sure that you are constantly reviewing your initiatives and evaluate the possibility of turning that into an app to make it that much more impactful. One example of this would be, when you are running a survey for your organization. Sometimes people want to do it on their phones. It's just quicker. It's more familiar to me. It's more natural. So that's an example of that. Now, if you have apps already, make sure you're doing an app review. I do one with my clients every 6 months. We go through analytics. We look at the original app plan to make sure it still makes sense. And based on that, we actually come up with an action plan and recommendations so that the app stays relevant and is engaging the audience that it's supposed to. If you haven't signed up, Fliplet is absolutely free. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to scan that QR code. And once you scan the QR code and sign up, you'll have access to all our solutions. Some of them are as robust as a directory or as simple as a approval workflow, right? The event app is another example. Emergency management, like you saw, we have all those templates available. So make sure you sign up. All right. So let's look at upcoming webinars. We start with integrating your tech stack, which is available on demand. All you have to do is put your credentials in there, your email, and it'll give you access. Then continuing on our AI series, We have events powered by AI, which will be happening on November 15th at 11:30 a.m. Eastern. And finally, we have our Fliplet Summit, which will be happening November 22nd, and it's divided in several sessions. So we start with a keynote speech by our CEO and a roadmap of what's happening with Fliplet. Then from there, we jump onto a case study from a client, followed by a couple of demo solutions of upcoming solutions so that you can see what it actually looks like. You see it interacting and you see the ins and outs of these solutions. And finally, we're going to close with an information security session. You don't have to attend the entire summit. I do recommend that you do because everything we have prepared for you is absolutely great, but we're conscious of time. So if you want to attend one session rather than the other, you're more than welcome to do so. I know we've gone over a little bit, so give me 1 second. I'm just gonna check the Q&A to answer some of the questions, and the ones that I don't get back to, we will make sure to reach out to you directly. So we have a question from Daphne here. She's asking if the event apps are dedicated to a specific event are still active once the event is concluded or a short time after the event. That really depends. If you want to leave it live, you can. You can actually, you can choose to leave it open if you have resources you want to share. But you can also just close it or archive it. In terms of events, I'm going to reiterate, you want to review your analytics after the event happens to make sure you're maximizing the impact of your next event. Anonymous attendee, what is gamification? Gamification is basically rewarding your users for using your app. So every time somebody likes or comments or bookmarks or engages in a conversation, they get awards, right? I'm sure you guys all have seen an example of these are badges, right? On audiobooks. Once you get a certain and once you've read a certain number of books or listened to a certain number of books, you get different badges. Also, running apps, sports apps are very common for this. Once you reach a certain number of miles, you get different medals. That's gamification, right? So it's to make sure that people are engaging with the content. Just a reminder that we will be, doing this same report and this same webinar in Q2 of next year, where we will have some more information. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been amazing to talk to you, and we hope to hear back from you very, very soon.